Mammotion has just released a budget-friendly robot mower designed for smaller yards. My name is Jamie Andrews, and this is the Mammotion Yuka robot lawnmower with GPS-enabled navigation. Simply put, it means you don't have to worry about this robot driving into traffic or the neighbor's yard. Its margin of error is just a few centimeters, which allows Yuka to cut your yard with neat straight lines with the ability to create no-go zones. Things you can't get on random navigation mowers that require a perimeter electric wire to be installed. In this video, I will give you a brief tour and in the end give you a list of my pros and cons, followed by my conclusion. Mammotion is a new company that made a big name for themselves in the robot mower market when they released the Luba and more recently the Luba2. I'll leave a link to my review of the Luba2 in the description, and in the end of this video, I will tell you reasons why you may want to choose the Luba over this Yuka. There are two Yuka models, the 1500 which retails for $1,400 and supports around a third of an acre and 10 mowing zones, where the 2000 will set you back an additional $300 and supports up to half an acre and 20 mowing zones. That is not all. The Yuka supports an add-on sweeper attachment, a $400 option for either model, which also serves to double the battery capacity from 4.5 amp hours to 9 amp hours. I will test this add-on and do a separate review for it very soon. For now, let's take a closer look at the Yuka. Starting on top, Yuka has a manual height adjustment knob which adjusts the cutting height from 1 inch all the way up to 4 inches. There's a big red stop button on top with a removable key which when removed will disable the robot. There's a home, power, grass cut, and a start button along with a GPS lock indicator light. Above that is the battery level indicator light, a rain sensor, and top-mounted camera. Obstacle avoidance is via these two front cameras, which also aids in navigation and comes with an automatic wiper to help clear the screen. On the back we have a GPS satellite receiver, which in addition to the independent RTK station, gives you the same accurate navigation as the more expensive Luba series. I like the integration of a carrying handle on the very back. The entire front half of Yuka doubles as an impact bumper that when triggered will allow Yuka to bypass an object. On the front of the bumper we find the charging contacts which are well protected from the weather. Under the front of Yuka we have a single omnidirectional wheel. Yuka is equipped with 2 cutting discs, 6 blades, and a total cutting width of 15.7 inches. The mowing deck is a free-floating design, similar to ones found under riding mowers designed not to scalp your yard. The 2 very large rear wheels serve to drive and steer the robot with 2 independent rear motors. Looking at the charging dock, we have an LED charging indicator light on top, a pair of charging contacts below, and 4 holes around the perimeter to secure it in place with the included hardware. Once Yuka is set up and charged, the mapping process is pretty easy. Using the app as a remote control, you drive Yuka around the perimeter of your yard, creating the boundary line. This is where you might want to split your yard up into several smaller zones. Once your zones have been created, you may need to connect them with paths, which just means that you start in one zone and drive Yuka to an adjacent one while recording the session. You may also want to create no-go zones around trees, sheds, bushes, etc. Anywhere you don't want the robot to mow, I suggest creating a no-go zone. The process is simple, as you have a starting point and then you drive Yuka around the object, finishing back at the starting point. Mammotion gives you the ability to edit the perimeter or zones in the app, so don't worry if you don't get it right the first time. Outside of no-go zones, you will rely on Yuka's advanced object avoidance system that has several settings in the app. First up is direct touch, where it will only stop when the bumper is impacted. The next one is labeled slow touch, that slows down when approaching an object, and then less touch, which to me appears to be nearly identical to slow touch in my testing. Finally, we have no touch, and as you can see here, it will avoid the object in its path without contact. I tested the system with several objects set to the no touch setting. When it comes to sticks, it was not able to detect them at all, so I recommend picking these up. In fact, I had to pull one out from under the Yuka while mowing. Okay, so what about kids' toys which can end up in the yard? Well, thankfully it didn't destroy this stuffed animal. I once again put myself in harm's way, and thankfully the Yuka avoided my feet by a wide margin. Smaller and shorter items like this sprinkler were hit and miss, where I had to hit the emergency stop button one time, and another time it decided to dodge it at the very last minute. The key thing here is you should always pick up before sending the robot mower out to mow. When you want to start a mowing, you will be able to choose one or more mowing zones. With a 4.5 amp hour battery, I was getting roughly 120 minutes before it needed to go back and recharge. This might not be enough to mow your entire yard in one go, so when the robot's charge reaches 15%, it will go back and charge up to 80% and continue the job. Yuka, with its two-wheel drive system, can handle a slope up to 24 degrees, and for safety it can also halt the blades during a flip over, bumper impact, or when there is excess drag detected on the blades. This piece of a tree limb, when hit by the Yuka, caused the blades to come to a halt, so it works as designed. At the end of the row, you can choose to have Yuka make a multi-point turn, as shown here, or a 0-point turn, where both back wheels spin in the opposite direction to complete a tight turn. You can restrict the mowing in rain in the app. I found it to work okay in light rain or with morning dew on the grass, although it did require some extra cleaning under the deck. Speaking about cleaning, Yuka is IPX6 rated, so you can power it down and hose off the top of the mower and then flip it up on its end and rinse off the mower deck. I wouldn't use high pressure water anywhere on this robot. The RTK station does not require maintenance, and it has a higher IPX7 rating. Looking at the app, you get the same functionality as the more expensive Luba model and lots of customization. You can perform manual mowing while using the app, which is great for touching up around areas that might have been missed, but you must be within Bluetooth range for this to work. You can also remote view the cameras while it's mowing, or simply use Yuka to patrol around your property if Yuka has a strong Wi-Fi signal in your yard. You can add a 4G SIM chip to the robot, which eliminates that problem altogether. Okay, let's move on to some pros and cons, starting with the cons. I found it often needed 2 passes for a completely even cut yard. Now granted, my grass is pretty thick, so you may not find this to be the case with your yard. I also found it would leave several small patches of uncut grass at the end of every row when it turns. I have reported this issue to the company, and it should be resolved fairly soon. Next, when object avoidance was switched to no touch, I found it would randomly stop and go around something that was not actually there. Only when I switched it to slow or direct touch did this problem go away. The integrated wiper for the front camera is a neat idea, but without water being applied, I'm concerned it will begin to scratch the clear lens over time, and there currently is no way to disable this. Next, unlike Luba, there is no option for a garage to attach to the dock, which in my opinion is a lost opportunity for the company. My last con is the lack of tangible differences between the 2000 and 1500 model. You don't get a bigger battery. It appears you only get additional storage for 10 more zones, and a bump from 1/3 of an acre to 1/2 acre of coverage, all for an extra $300, which feels like a hefty premium to pay for a nominal upgrade. Before I move on to the pros, I want to give you a bit of advice regarding Yuka. This list of cons would be much larger if you bought Yuka, but instead should have bought the Luba model. Alright, hear me out. The Yuka would be the wrong choice for my type of yard, as it has soft sandy spots in it, where I would constantly find Yuka to be stuck. This mostly happens when Yuka goes to make a turn and the smallish front wheel just digs in the sand. If you have sandy, muddy, or soft terrain, you should look at purchasing the Luba2 with its all-wheel drive system, which is yet to get stuck in my yard. I'll leave a link to the Luba2 review video in the description. Okay, moving on to the pros. If you get it for the right type of yard, I'm certain you'll be pleased with the easy setup, fast mapping, and near-perfect navigation. Even under a huge tree in my backyard, Yuka was able to cross the yard and come right back where it left off. I found the object avoidance to be pretty good, maybe even better than the Luba2. Being two-wheel drive means it's easier on your yard when turning. I found the floating deck to work well even when crossing through dips in my yard. My final pro is that it comes from a company who is actively engaged online with their users and listens to and responds to feedback. It has been a joy to work with them over the past several months, and their desire to improve the products through software updates is class leading. To conclude, the Yuka is an impressive offering for people with small yards who want to keep them looking nice without the need for an all-wheel drive mower. If I did not have soft spots in my yard, I would gladly use it over the Luba2 and save a bunch of money. It won't eliminate all the yard work, but it should replace a pusher riding mower, and with the starting price of just $1,400, you get the same great navigation tech from the Luba model in a more affordable package. If you'd like me to do a comparison video between the Luba2 and this Yuka model, drop a comment down below. Links to purchase are in the description, which go a long way to support this type of content. Thanks for watching, everyone. Take it easy out there, and bye-bye.